It's an NL Central showdown between the top two teams in the division as the Cardinals visit Cincinnati to take on the Reds next on Monday Night Baseball. Albert Pujols is, well, Albert Pujols. But even Albert can't do it alone. The Cardinals rely heavily on their starting pitching, and tonight they turn to one of their two aces, Chris Carpenter. With a .748 career winning percentage as a Cardinal, St. Louis has the right man on the mound to open this big series. Lots of things are suddenly new here in Cincinnati. Sellouts, winning ways, and big expectations. Dusty Baker's squad has defied most experts all season long. Now, can Joey Votto and company take the Reds back to the playoffs? A crucial series begins next.
ESPN Monday Night Baseball, presented by Vonage. Welcome to Great American Ballpark. Beautiful night for a ball game. And here in the Queen City, Reds fans are some kind of fired up about their team right now. And why not? They're the first place Cincinnati Reds with a two-game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals, who arrive here tonight for the beginning of a tremendously important three-game series. Hi, everybody. Dan Shulman and Omar Garciaparra, Aaron Boone. It's been 11 years since the Reds were in this kind of a position this late in the season. It's been 15 years since they made the playoffs. So this is a huge series for them, as it is for the Cardinals and Nomar. Tony La Russa and St. Louis, they set up their pitching to get it just the way they wanted it heading into this series, and that means Chris Carpenter starting tonight.
And Chris Carpenter is some special pitcher. A number of aces on this pitching staff, and he is one of them. He's 3-0 this season with a 1.96 ERA versus the Reds alone. And what makes Chris Carpenter so effective is all his pitches seem to fall off the plate. Nothing is down the middle. He's either grabbing the corner or he's just off the plate. And when you think you might have Chris Carpenter on the ropes, he has the ability not only to strike you out, but to get that ground ball and that inning-ending double play to get himself and his team back in the dugout.
We've got a guy in this game who just might win the Triple Crown this year. His name is Albert Pujols. We've got another guy in this game who just might win the Triple Crown this year. He doesn't get the headlines, but Joey Votto is having an incredible season.
Yeah, Dan, and I think there's this perception out there that Joey Votto has kind of burst onto the scene this year. But the reality is, since becoming a major leaguer, he has been a very good player that has gotten steadily better each year to the point now where he's a bona fide MVP candidate, a Triple Crown threat. And as we go here, he's become an on-base and a power machine, leading the National League in on-base percentage and slugging percentage. And guys, as I look out on the landscape of the Major League Baseball, I see a number of great, not good, but great first basemen around this league. And Joey Votto, make no mistake, has put his name right in a class with them.
And let's not shortchange the other guy we mentioned, the first baseman on the other side of the field. Albert Pujols is on one of those rolls. As hot as you can get right now, it's going to be a tough challenge for the rookie starting pitcher for the Reds tonight, Mike Leake.
ESPN Monday Night Baseball is presented by Vonage. Sounds good. And in part by Pizza Hut. On Tuesdays, get any Pizza Hut Toscane pasta for one incredible price. And Cisco. Welcome to the Human Network.
Anish Shroff with you in studio. We're leading off with the Yankees and Red Sox. Finale of their full-game set in the Bronx. Bottom 7, bases loaded. Daniel Bard gets Nick Swisher swinging. The Sox escape a bases-loaded no-out jam without giving up a run in the ninth. Yankees are the tying run at second, but Jonathan Papelbon gets Mark Teixeira. Boston wins at 2-1. They salvage a split of the four-game set. Meanwhile, the Mariners fired manager Don Wakamatsu and 3 of his coaches today. At 42-70, Seattle owns the AL's second worst record. Darren Brown takes over as interim manager. Time now for Monday Night Baseball. Reds and Cards from Great American Ballpark.
Anish, thank you. And a big crowd here at Great American Ballpark to open up this big three-game series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds, who are battling for the top spot in the National League Central. The Cardinals 2 back of the Reds right now. Albert Pujols is on one of those tears right now. He's hit 5 home runs in his last 7 games. And it's funny how until recently the perception was, hey, Albert's kind of having a bit of an off year. We should all have off years like Albert Pujols does. Look at the company he has joined. Just recently played in his 1,500th career game. Becomes only the 5th player ever with a .330 average, 300 homers, 1,000 RBIs, and 1,000 runs scored in the first 15 games. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Ted Williams, and Albert Pujols. No matter how you slice and dice his numbers, they always come up incredibly impressive. And Tony La Russa now managing Albert Pujols for the 10th consecutive year. Tony La Russa has led his team to the postseason 8 times in his 14 years as the skipper in St. Louis. Time now for the starting lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals. And this is a team that can be hot and cold offensively. Again, the pitcher, in tonight's case, Chris Carpenter, hitting in the 8th spot. Matt Holliday providing some protection, Nomar, for the number 3 hitter, the aforementioned Albert Pujols.
I mean, you said it. This is a down year, like you said, for Albert Pujols at 311, 28 home runs, and 82 RBIs. I don't see it as a down year, and I'm sure a lot of others don't. I mean, we're going to be talking about him in the end of the season, about being an MVP candidate. And like you said, 5 home runs in his last 7 games. He talked about it earlier about, I may not be feeling good, but I'm turning the corner.
The Cincinnati Reds, Aaron, have been bolstered by a great crop of rookies this year. And this is one of the best rookie pitchers in all of baseball this season, Mike Leake.
Yeah, and what would the year of the pitcher be without having a pitcher fresh off the campus of Arizona State, no minor league experience, and been one of the key guys in a rotation that is in first place in the National League Central.
The Reds made a trade today. Jim Edmonds, most recently a Brewer, a guy obviously who spent some of his best years with the Cardinals, was acquired today for outfielder Chris Dickerson. And they got him from Milwaukee to Cincinnati in time for tonight's game, and he'll get the start in center field tonight, flanked by Lance Nix in left and Jay Bruce in right. On the infield, Paul Janisch filling in for the injured Orlando Cabrera. Brandon Phillips is at second base. One of the best ever to play the position at third, Scott Rowland, another former Cardinal. Joey Votto at first, and Ramon Hernandez will do the catching. The Cardinals lead the season series 7-5 against the Reds. There's still another 3-game series to come in early September at Busch Stadium. This is the opener of a 3-game series here tonight with a lot on the line. Felipe Lopez leads it off, lines the first pitch to left center, and Nix comes over, fighting the sun to make a sliding catch.
And a great play from Lance Nix to kick off this showdown in the Central, battling the time of day with the sun possibly peeking through to go in and make a sliding catch. One of the guys defensively that Dusty Baker raved about, his ability to play left, and he's also swung a hot bat for this club.
This is a very good defensive team, Cincinnati. Got a lot of talented defensive players. 90 degrees at game time as we get going here at Great American Ballpark. The second hitter in the St. Louis lineup is right fielder John Jay. Quickly in the hole 0-2. And look at the crowd. The crowds have really picked up recently here in Cincinnati. This town getting very excited about its Reds right now. Phillips on Votto. Jay retired 2 down.
You talked about a very good defense. I think that's just an excellent point and a very good point to make when you have someone like Mike Leake on the mound. That ground ball that we saw there to Brandon Phillips, I think we're going to see an awful lot of ground balls put in play, and depending on their defense.
And the home plate umpire Larry Vanover went out and had a look at the baseball before deciding that everything was okay. 2 outs, nobody on for the Cardinals, top of the first. There have been games here this year and last year where the Cardinals have complained about the state of the baseballs that are being used in this park, saying that they feel too slick, and their pitchers have been unable to get a good grip on it. Probably not the same situation here, obviously, because it was Leake who had the ball when it was checked. Here's Pujols, and he hits a high fly ball right center, deep but playable. Jay Bruce. Mike Leake makes quick work of the Cardinals in the top of the first. Joey Votto and company due up for the Reds in the bottom half. Lots of reasons for Dusty Baker to be smiling these days. His Cincinnati Reds are in first place here in the month of August. We go to the bottom of the first. No score after the Cardinals went in order. I'm going to check the starting lineup for the Reds. One of the best offensive teams in the National League. They can hurt you a lot of different ways, and they have made an addition to their lineup tonight. Nomar, as we mentioned, Jim Edmonds is now a Red.
Yeah, Jim Edmonds coming over from Milwaukee. It just adds that veteran presence in that clubhouse. You see the leadership with Scott Rowland, Orlando Cabrera, unfortunately on the DL at the present time, but another one in Jim Edmonds that you're going to need down the stretch.
Especially when you run into this kind of pitching, Aaron. Chris Carpenter lined up, one of the two aces for the Cardinals. He'll pitch the first game of this series.
Yeah, and Carpenter has seen a drop in his average fastball this year by a couple of miles an hour, and it's made him rely more on the curveball. Gotten away from the slider a bit, relying more on the curveball, and still been just as dominant as ever.
He will say about himself, I have less stuff than I used to have, but I have more brains than I used to have when it comes to pitching. And he thinks experience and knowledge and wisdom is helping him more than to compensate for whatever he may have lost. He's been a Cy Young Award winner and one of the most successful pitchers in baseball when healthy since he came to St. Louis. Here's Brandon Phillips now, the leadoff hitter for the Reds. First-time All-Star this year, and a guy who, like a lot of his teammates, he's got power, he's got speed. And a little delay is now Brendan Ryan, the shortstop of the Cardinals, just switched gloves. Nomar, can you enlighten us?
Sometimes he might. Sometimes while you're taking infield, there's occasion where you go, uh-oh, I think a string just broke, and I got to go out there and switch my glove.
And if we got to look at Carpenter there, he actually looked a little kind of perturbed, like, let's get this show on the road. An intense competitor, doesn't want to take him out of his rhythm.
Swinging a foul off of the first pitch that Phillips sees. He'll be followed by Lance Nix and then Joey Votto here in the bottom of the first.
And when we say he's lost a little bit of stuff, it's not a lot. He's still an elite pitcher, elite stuff. It's just maybe a couple miles off of the fastball.
Now 35 years of age, Chris Carpenter, as he misses outside to even it up with a ball and a strike. Pitching against this team in this ballpark is no easy task. This is a very good offensive team. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Carpenter, though, has had a remarkable amount of success against Cincinnati. He's won his last 8 starts against the Reds, including 3 of them this year. And the curveball grounded down to third. Felipe Lopez up with it and on to first for out number 1. Defensively, the Cardinals have been a little bit erratic this year. They haven't played the tight defense that you normally associate with this team. Left to right in the outfield, Matt Holliday, Colby Rasmus, and John Jay. Up the middle defensively, Brendan Ryan at short. Skip Schumacher, a former outfielder, converted to the infield last year. He's at second base. Felipe Lopez at third. Albert Pujols is at first. And Yadier Molina will start his 14th consecutive game. Young, strong, healthy, and as good a catcher as there is in baseball. Tony La Russa says, I just can't bring myself to take him out of the lineup. Nix with a base hit up the middle. A 1-out single for the Reds in the bottom of the first. So that'll bring up Joey Votto, the biggest reason why Cincinnati is such a dangerous offensive team. And you can see here they lead the National League in a number of categories, including the most important one, runs per game. And Votto on the year with 28 homers, a .319 average, and Aaron, as you mentioned off the top of the show, leading the league in on-base percentage and slugging percentage. He skies one to right field. Jay with room now coming in a bit for out number 2.
And you see the Reds, all 3 hitters tonight have gone up there swinging at the first pitch. And that's just familiarity, having a scouting report, having a plan. And you would think based off of that they decided tonight, hey, we want to be very aggressive with Carpenter, probably thinking he wants to get ahead with just a strike. So let's attack him early.
2 down, and here's the cleanup hitter, a former Cardinal. There are a lot of them who have come to the Cincinnati organization ever since Walt Jocketty, the former GM of the Cardinals, has taken over as GM of the Reds. Roland, of course, had some incredible years for St. Louis. And right now is having his best year since 2006. Healthier than he's been. The shoulder problems appear to be behind him. Had a hamstring issue recently, but he's healthy now. He's hot now. And he's having a terrific year with 18 home runs and a .301 batting average. Fooled there by Carpenter when the count is 0-2. While Jocketty had a lot of success, Nomar, with St. Louis, and it looks like Cincinnati is building something special here. Not only are they good this year, they've got a lot of depth, a lot of talent in the organization.
Yeah, they have a lot of youth right now. To be just looking at their starting pitching staff, there's a lot of youth there with the average age about probably like 27. I think the oldest is Bronson Arroyo at 33, and the next one is 27.
Ground ball to third. Lopez to his left. On to second in time. And the inning is over. No runs, a hit, and a man left. Matt Holliday will lead it off for the Cardinals when we come back in the top of the second. Well, we saw going to the bottom of the first, Chris Carpenter looked a little bit upset. Brendan Ryan delayed Carpenter getting a chance to pitch because he asked for his glove to be switched for whatever reason. And right after the inning, Chris Carpenter summoned Brendan Ryan down the tunnel. And we can only see Ryan here as Carpenter is talking to him, but we watched it between innings. It was about a 20 or 30 second lecture. Never mind, Ryan didn't say anything. He barely blinked during that time.
Yeah, and we know what a competitor Chris Carpenter is. And we saw him visibly upset with the delay to start the inning, and he addressed it in between innings. And you know, it'd be extremely speculatory of us to suggest that, you know, this is something that's happened before and he was just nipping in the bud. But
Matt Holliday bounces one past Leake and into center field, a base hit. Let's check into back of the studio. Here's Anish Shroff.
All right, thanks, Dan. This update brought to you by Citgo, keeping you in the game. First to three, Rays and Tigers. Tampa with a chance to get on the board in the first. Carl Crawford, fly ball to left. John Jaso gunned down by Scott Frazier at the plate. Scoreless, bottom one. David Price going for his AL leading 15th win for Tampa.
Tough times right now for the Rays. They've lost 5 in a row, and in the last 24 hours, they sent a couple of pitchers to get checkups for sore shoulders. Jeff Neiman and Wade Davis, 2/5 of their starting rotation coming up with sore shoulders. And at this point of the year, Nomar, I mean, got to be all hands on deck, especially if you're competing in the American League East.
Well, right now you talk about the dog days of August, and I think we're seeing that even between these two teams. These two teams right now, you're going, this is playoff time. You know, you really think September is that playoff time, but when you have teams really competing, and I love these two teams going at it, this is, you know, this isn't going to determine the playoffs today or this series, but this is where it starts, and the Tampa Bay Rays are in the same boat.
Yep. Ground ball off the bat of Rasmus. The second one and on to first. Double play. 4-6-3, the Reds turn it. More baseball comes your way Wednesday and Sunday night this week. On a Wednesday night, it'll be the first place Texas Rangers with Cliff Lee on the mound, taking on Robinson Cano and the New York Yankees at 7 Eastern. Then Sunday night baseball at 8 Eastern, National League East Division rivals, the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies from Citi Field. Both games also available on ESPN and 3.com. The Phillies are hot on the heels of the Braves right now in the NL East. And Nomar, you talked about this series here. The White Sox and Twins begin a series tomorrow. The Padres and Giants play each other beginning Friday. This is a very significant week on the schedule right now for a lot of teams.
You think the people who make the schedule before the season are sitting back going, gosh, I did this perfect. I knew exactly who was going to be battling.
Nailed it.
2 down, nobody on for Yadier Molina.
Just to get back on, I was just thinking about Chris Carpenter and Brendan Ryan down there. The one thing that was just fascinating to me, or what I really like to see, is you had the veteran going, come here, let's go talk, let's nip this in the bud right now for whatever reason, and then Brendan Ryan just listening. Like you said, I don't think he blinked. He blinked once. That's just respect.
Looped to the right center field, a base hit for Molina, who has been on a tear since the All-Star break. A 2-out base hit.
Yeah, and that is the Carpenter Ryan incident. That's something that playing every day, you hear it all the time, but it is like a family, and you're going to have situations that come up where somebody gets upset with another guy, and you like to see it handled like that. They tried to get out of camera sight. We were fortunate that we got to get a peek inside. But these are things that come up all the time. And at the end of the day,
Schumacher chops one to short, flip to second, inning over. Couple of hits, a man left on, no damage done. Jim Edmonds will get his first at bat as a Cincinnati Red when we come back. Jim Edmonds acquired today by Cincinnati from Milwaukee, getting ready for his first at bat as a member of the Reds. A guy known first and foremost, I would think, for spectacular defense when you go back to his younger years. And this is way back to the Angel days, the early Angel days, 1997, robbing David Howard of an extra base hit. I mean, that's some kind of catch. And acquired today for outfielder Chris Dickerson, who was on injury rehab down at AAA. Edmonds right into the lineup, playing center field, batting fifth. Dusty Baker will not use him every day. He will be a part-time player 2, 3, 4 times a week. And they hope that he's going to bring some more veteran perspective to this team. They've got some great veterans on this team, guys who have been around the block. And they really feel that they've been helped with the additions of Scott Rowland, Orlando Cabrera, Miguel Cairo, Arthur Rhodes. Now here's a veteran outfielder, maybe to counsel some of their young players like Drew Stubbs, Jay Bruce, Chris Heisey, all of their young outfielders. Hit hard to center field, but right at Rasmus for the first out.
and Dan, look, first and foremost, Jim Edmonds can still play. And on a productive, 3-4 day a week situation, he's proved this year that he can produce. And when you got young guys like Jay Bruce in right field, Drew Stubbs, that are very talented players, very good players, but that have had their struggles off and on, I think it's a perfect pickup to provide some incentive for them.
Here is Jay Bruce, and he hits it a long way to right field, but not quite far enough. John Jay with room on the track, 2 down. Well, this is Jim Edmonds before the game, doing some of the things you have to do, getting comfortable with a new team, working in your new cap, learning the stadium, learning the warning track and the wall, getting to know a new coach and a Billy Hatcher, a couple of your young teammates. I mean, they got him here fast.
Well, yeah, and this allows them to kind of play the hot hand. With Bruce, Stubbs, Edmonds now all figuring into that right field, center field mix. That's 3 good options. And the 2 young guys, Bruce and Stubbs, have proved to be at times really special. But at times they've struggled, and they believe Edmonds can spell them and provide a leadership or kind of help them grow up at the big league level, and especially now as we approach the middle of August in a pennant race.
Base hit through the left side for Ramon Hernandez. And by the way, the roster move the Reds made, because Dickerson was not with the major league team, the guy they traded to Milwaukee, was they sent down one of their starting pitchers, Travis Wood, another rookie, their number 5 starter, I guess. Of off days coming up, Nomar, so they sent Wood down probably just for 10 days. They'll let him get a start in the minors, and they'll go a man short on the pitching staff. They'll bring him back in about 10 days, and he'll go back into the rotation.
Yeah, because I think it wasn't for, like you said, 10 days because of the off days. He would be the one out. And they figured, well, let's send him down. Let him keep him sharp. I mean, he has been tremendous for the Cincinnati Reds. Let's keep him sharp, let him get another start down in the minor leagues and be ready. And then they'll have a decision to make in 10 days.
Yanis, the batter. He hits one sharply, but right at Lopez at third. He'll fire it on to Schumacher to force Hernandez and end the inning. We're through 2 in Cincinnati. The Cardinals and Reds are scoreless.
ESPN Monday Night Baseball, presented by Vonage, is brought to you by Burger King, who remind you to have it your way, and Hampton Hotels. At Hampton, we love having you here.
Top third, no score at Great American Ballpark, the home of the Cincinnati Reds, with Aaron Boone and Omar Garcia-Parra. I'm Dan Shulman, and this is ESPN Monday Night Baseball, presented by Vonage. Game 1 of this big 3-game series between the top 2 teams in the division, as Chris Carpenter steps in. and takes a strike over the outside corner from his counterpart Mike Leake. Carpenter had his biggest offensive day ever last year against Cincinnati. Had a home run and 6 RBIs. And as you can see from the numbers we just put up, has not had any kind of success really offensively this year, hitting 128 with a couple of RBIs. Big guy though, about 6'6", 240 if he gets into one. Not in this case. Ground ball to short, 1 down. We talked about Mike Leake. Aaron, I believe it was the one who mentioned that he came right to the majors. Did not play 1 day in the minors. He's out of Arizona State. Pitchers who have made their major league debuts skipping the minors in the last 30 years, not too many of them. He's the 21st player, pitcher or otherwise, ever to do this. And as you can see, it doesn't happen very often. He made 5 starts in the Arizona Fall League last October. That's it. Never pitched in minor league baseball. Wasn't expected to make the team out of the spring. But boy, Dusty Baker gets a real smile on his face when he talks about him because he can field his position. He's a great hitter. Gets a lot of ground balls, works quickly. Nomar, Dusty really likes him.
He just lit up when we asked him questions earlier today, talking about just a great athlete out there. And he said when he told Dusty.
There's a swing and a pop-up. Brandon Phillips, the second baseman there. Brendan Ryan retired 2 down.
When he told Dusty at spring training, he goes, Dusty, you know, I could hit. I really can hit. And Dusty's like, yeah, every pitcher thinks they can hit. And then he goes, then he saw him out there and he's swinging the bat and he goes, yeah, he's right. He can hit. And I know Dusty often at times will use him as a pinch hitter coming off the bench. So it speaks volumes of a guy who's never played a day in the minors.
He was a first-team All-American last year at Arizona State. Had a 40-6 record in his 3 years there. First-round pick, 8th overall last June. Not a big guy, really. 6'1", 190. Not an overpowering guy. But obviously, Aaron, he's got to be well beyond his years in terms of his understanding of pitching, how to set people up, that kind of thing.
Well, that leaps off the screen when you first see this kid. You see the athleticism, you see the poise, and you see an air of confidence as he walks around out there on the mound, and a clear idea of how to pitch as he tried to backdoor a breaking ball there.
Felipe Lopez with a roller to second. And the Cardinals go 1-2-3. We told you he can hit. You'll see him hit when we come back. The Little League World Series continues on ESPN tomorrow with both Southeast Regional semifinal games. Arkadelphia against the winner of Texas and Louisiana at 3 Eastern, and then Pearland, Texas against Grand Junction in Colorado at 6 Eastern. Little League World Series presented by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes Reduced Sugar on ESPN tomorrow. Both of the guys in the booth with me are going to be involved. Aaron is doing some regionals in
San Bernardino, California.
And Nomar is going to Williamsport for the Little League World Series. You're going to have a good time.
I'm looking forward to it, going out there and watching just these kids go out there and have fun. And I'm also looking forward to Frosted Flakes. This is my favorite cereal.
Reduced sugar's okay with you?
Yeah, just fine.
Here's Leake. And the count is 0-2. Chris Carpenter, as Aaron talked about, a great competitor and really dialed in, even more intense it seems than normal so far tonight. The 0-2, and Leake lays off the breaking ball. All Leake has done so far this year with the bat, in 42 at bats, he's got 15 hits. He's hitting .357 so far on the season.
And as a player playing behind him, you're mad. You're going, wait a minute, I want that average. I want a .357 average, and
it's not supposed to be that easy.
Exactly, because pitchers always think they can hit. Finally have a young kid coming up, never spent a day in the minors, and he can hit too. You're really upset with the guy.
Fouls it out of play. Well, Dusty, and from baseball people, this is the ultimate compliment. Dusty says, you know, he's a baseball player. He can do everything out there. Field his position. He can pitch. He's smart. He can hit. He does everything.
He takes a good cut at this pitch right here. Look at that. Nice down, head down.
Carpenter gets him here, 1 down.
And he would way to make us look bad after that.
Well, let's look ahead right now the rest of the way at the schedules these two teams have. If you look at the winning percentage of all of their opponents the rest of the way, the Reds and Cardinals have the two easiest schedules left in baseball. Now, a lot of that is that the other four teams in their division are all considerably below 500. The biggest difference in their two schedules is the Cardinals don't go out west anymore. Cincinnati goes west 3 more times. They will play all 5 National League West Division teams on the road between now and the rest of the season. Both of you guys, you played in different time zones. You understand the nature of going cross country. Is it more difficult for Cincinnati because they've got to go west for 3 separate road trips between now and the rest of the season? Phillips with a broken to bat roller to short, charged by Ryan, flipped to first in time, 2 down.
It definitely can be difficult, especially with the time change, trying to get back on track, just sleep wise. A lot of times when you're trying to sleep or get back there, that time zone, if you get in late and now you're all screwed up and you're trying to figure out, okay, I need to get back on track. I just want to rest. Maybe a day game, that day game coming up after. So it depends on how the schedule sets up.
And one of the things that'll help the Reds is a couple of those trips they take in September. And one of the strengths of the Cincinnati Red organization, probably perhaps more than any other team in the big leagues maybe, is the depth in their rotation, in their system, in their pitching staff, relief corps, people to come in and fill in. So that'll give them fresh bodies, fresh arms to compete on a West Coast trip.
By September, if not earlier, Homer Bailey could be back. Aaron Harang could get healthy. Aroldis Chapman, the young Cuban pitcher, the left-hander who they've been working out of the bullpen in the minors, who's been lights out the last couple of weeks. He's going to get to the big leagues, if not in September, then maybe before September. So they do figure to have great depth on their pitching staff come September.
Yeah, and they have that depth is an embarrassment of riches, so to speak, because they don't know what to do with some of those. They're going to be 7 deep within their rotation and have some very difficult decisions to make for guys that are pitching very well. Now, with a guy like Leake and Wood, guys who haven't done it at the big league level yet, it'll be tough.
Nick strikes out to end the inning. We are through 3 here in Cincinnati. No score in this game. Albert Pujols will try to change that. He is due up second for the Cardinals in the top of the 4th. ESPN Monday Night Baseball presented by Vonage. Major League Baseball congratulates Santo Domingo RBI on winning the Junior Boys Championship and Houston RBI on winning the Senior Boys Championship of the 2010 Reviving Baseball and Inner Cities World Series, presented by KPMG. John Jay leads off the top of the 4th for the Cardinals with a double. Jay hitting so well the last month or so. One of the reasons why the Cardinals felt comfortable dealing Ryan Ludwig in the 3-team deal. Ludwig went to San Diego. Jake Westbrook moves into the Cardinal rotation.
And here he gets a little bit of a hanging breaking ball, down and out over the plate, a lefty's delight, and Jay sticks it in the corner for a leadoff double. And you're right, Dan. John Jay is the reason that the St. Louis Cardinals pulled the trigger on what was a very difficult deal for them, and having to ship Ludwig to San Diego. A very popular, a very productive player for these St. Louis Cardinals, but really a much needed pitcher in Jake Westbrook that this team needed more than anyone to solidify the bottom half of their rotation.
Slides into, I guess you would say, the number 4 spot in their rotation. Carpenter and Wainwright, the co-aces, and Jaime Garcia having an outstanding rookie season. He'll pitch tomorrow night as the count runs to 0-2 on Pujols. Albert retired on a fly ball his first time up. Westbrook had 9 strikeouts in his last start with the Cardinals, and he's a ground ball guy. Adam Wainwright, of course, having another phenomenal season. He's in contention for the Cy Young Award. 0-2 to Pujols, and he lays off in the dirt.
I think that's a great pickup for the Cardinals. Jake Westbrook, like you said, it's very difficult to give up a guy like Ryan Ludwig because he was leading the team in average runners in scoring position. But Westbrook just coming off, didn't play last year due to arm surgery. And it's really not only this year that he's going to help him out, but it's next year as well. I mean, it's really that year and a half where you feel 100% after an injury.
You can hear how the crowd felt about that last pitch. They thought Leake had struck out Pujols. Let's take a look.
Looked like a cut fastball that he tried to get away that drifted considerably off the plate, although the crowd oohed and awed. It wasn't that close of a pitch, and I think meant to be a chase pitch for Leake.
Now the 2-2. Base hit into left field. Jay had to wait to see if it got through, so he'll have to stop at third on the single by Pujols.
Well, after that chase pitch, Albert does a good job just not getting out of the zone, takes that pitch in and pulls it right into that hole. And John Jay did an excellent job at second base. You have to freeze because you want to make sure the third baseman doesn't come up. I mean, the shortstop doesn't come up with that ball so he can throw you out at third base. So he had to freeze, and Albert hit it so hard, so he's stuck at third, and you got a first and third situation.
And you saw there your two strong National League MVP candidates, two potential Triple Crown candidates in the National League in Pujols and Votto. The batter is Matt Holliday, the cleanup hitter. Holliday with a base hit his first time up. And as you can see, over the last month and a half or so, he has done an outstanding job hitting in the clutch, driving in runs. On the season, he's got 67 RBIs, looking for more here. And he'll get one. Base hit through the right side. Jay will score. Pujols to second. 1-0 Cardinals.
And a good job of staying on the off field. A sinker that didn't get in there far enough, and Holliday, big and strong, able to fight it off through that wide open right side of the infield, and the Cardinals take a early lead in this opener.
I really like watching Matt Holliday hit. And for me, when Matt Holliday is on, is he can take a pitch like that that sinks inside on his hands and still go the other way with it.
Rasmus with a base hit into center field. Pujols rounding third and heading home. The throw from Edmonds a little bit wide and not in time. Pujols slides into the Cardinals lead 2-0.
Kobe Rasmus does a good job hitting that ball up the middle. You got Jim Edmonds charging the ball hard. Albert Pujols does not stop. And the great thing about this throw, not only was it close, making it close at home plate, but the fact that he kept it low and threw it through the cutoff man, it kept Matt Holliday on second base. And especially you don't want him at third base with less than 2 outs. So excellent job right here. This is, we talk about that veteran guy making a good strong throw right there. Just other side of the plate, it would have been closer, but actually being able to hit that cutoff man, we talk about people at home, how important it is to hit that cutoff man. Well, it keeps the guy, the runner, at second base rather than going to third on the throw.
So St. Louis now leads 2-0. They've got 4 consecutive hits to begin this inning. Leake has only thrown 36 pitches so far. He's faced 14 batters and only thrown 36 pitches. But he's already given up 2 runs on 6 hits. The batter is Yadier Molina, and he swings at the first pitch. Ryan won't have a play. It'll be, or excuse me, Giannis won't have a play. It'll be an infield hit for Molina, and the bases are loaded.
Let's take a look here at all the hits so far this inning. This one, a breaking ball out over the plate. Here, a sinker that didn't get in far enough, and a good job of Holliday fighting off the sinker. Another sinker back through the middle. And he tried the breaking ball with Yadier, but Giannis unable to complete what was a very difficult play.
Now Schumacher, and he swings at the first pitch and sends a drive to deep left center and gone. Skip Schumacher with a grand slam to blow it open.
looked like another two-seam fastball that was just flat and out over the plate. And Schumacher, who struggled much of the season, coming back from a wrist injury, delivers in a big way as he sends it out to the big part of the park. And Leake frustrated, knowing that this game's starting to get away, and Dusty a little frustrated as well. But one of the things Leake's been struggling with in his last 5-6 outings has been his fastball. He's throwing more of them, but guys are hitting them more. So you wonder if some fatigue is starting to set in. Maybe the quality of his two-seam fastballs aren't as sharp. It certainly looks that way tonight, as they've taken advantage of some flat fastballs out over the plate.
And Carlos Fisher is up now in the Cincinnati pen. Leake, of course, is a rookie, a guy who came straight from college. Nomar, he's never pitched as many innings as he's pitching right now. And the Reds every now and again have backed him off, given him an extra day here and there. They keep him to 100 pitches or below in every start. But with all young pitchers, you wonder at this point of the season how careful you have to be, and are they hitting the wall?
That has to be a thought, especially with somebody who has never been in the minor leagues and never been in this situation. And what I mean by that is pitching this long into a season. The college, the amount of innings he has in this environment. It's the big league. This is the best. This is the environment he has to be in. So you really have to be aware of that. And with a guy like Leake, what he's so effective is pitching down in the zone. He's got a ball that sinks down, his breaking ball, his cutter. And when you get tired, you get fatigued. Pitchers like that have a tendency to keep that ball up in the zone, and it flattens out. And a lot of those pitches we just saw get hit were those type, kind of flatten out up in the zone. And they're pounding on them. And they were very aggressive, which is very interesting for the Cardinals to be that aggressive. So they must have been talking about it. Say, hey, if it's up in the zone, it's flattening out, let's take advantage of it.
6 runs on 6 consecutive hits to begin the top of the 4th. And not only that, those 6 batters, Leake threw only a total of 12 pitches to those 6 batters. And I think 4 of the 6 swung at the first pitch. The big hit, of course, the grand slam by Skip Schumacher. There's a strike to Ryan, and the count is 2-1.
See, you can be effective swinging at the first pitch.
You might have picked up a base knock or 2 in your day doing that, huh? Was your philosophy, hey, it might be the best pitch I can get, or were you just naturally aggressive up there?
Both. Combination of both.
Yeah.
Naturally aggressive, but at the same time, you got to feel that you have to be ready the minute you step in the box. Don't step in the box unless you're not ready. And it might be there's some guys just want to get that first strike.
Ryan chases a slider down and away, 2 down. And Leake, you just get confused on the number of outs. Leake was on his way to the dugout.
Yeah, usually if you're in the lead and you do that, guys will be laughing and saying, that's funny. That's something in kangaroo court we might fine you for. But right now, down 6-0, having a tough inning, and he's ready to just sprint. You see him sprinting off thinking that was the 3rd out. And there.
Can you have a worse inning than giving up 6 runs and forgetting about the number of outs?
That one's a tough one to wear right now.
And as the pitcher, it's hard to hide right there.
Yeah. 2-0 to Felipe Lopez. John Jay doubled, Albert Pujols a single, Matt Holliday an RBI single, Colby Rasmus an RBI single, an infield hit for Molina, then a grand slam for Schumacher, and here's the 7th hit of the inning. Lopez with a single as we check in with Anise Schroff back in our Baseball Tonight studio.
All right, Dan Arby's takes us to Detroit. It is former Tiger Matt Joyce. His 6th home run of the season, tying the game at 1. Ben Zobrist added a sac fly in the 3rd inning, Rays up 2-1 Tampa, facing Armando Galarraga, Mr. Almost Perfect, after nearly getting no hit yesterday by Brandon Morrow.
Dusty Baker to the mound, and that is all for Mike Leake. What a disastrous 4th inning, giving up 6 runs on 7 hard hit balls. And the Cardinals in this all-important series have a 6-0 lead in the 4th here at Great American Ballpark. Great American Ballpark here in Cincinnati is the site of one of the big Major League Series this week. The top 2 teams in the National League Central, the Reds 2 games up on the Cardinals, but St. Louis has erupted for 6 runs here in the 4th inning, capped by a Skip Schumacher grand slam. The Cardinals have knocked starter Mike Leake out of the game. And Dusty Baker goes to Carlos Fisher, who was just called up from the minors on Saturday when Russ Springer went on the disabled list with a hip problem. Fisher is the one guy in the bullpen who can give them some length. He's the long man, and he's going to be out there for a while, the way this one has started for the Reds.
He features a fastball, slider, and a curveball. But getting back to Nomar's point about the St. Louis Cardinals, normally a very patient team, being very aggressive tonight with Mike Leake.
John Jay, the batter.
Of the 15 home runs that Leake has given up this season, 7 have come on the first pitch. And opponents have 1,000 OPS swinging at the first pitch, which is well above the major league average.
Those are the adjustments that big leaguers hitters are going to do. They have these scouting reports. They're aware, especially a guy who's been successful like Mike Leake early on. They don't know him first time around, second time around. They're going to make that adjustment.
In Leake's last start, which came against Pittsburgh 6 days ago, he gave up 6 runs in an inning as well. Although a few days after that game, a base hit was changed to an error charged to Scott Rowland, and instead of 6 earned runs, it was 6 unearned runs. That really helped Leake's overall ERA, but obviously he still got knocked around quite a bit. There goes the runner, and the pitch will skip past Hernandez to the backstop, and Jay is going to head for third and is in there and remains in there, almost oversliding the bag. Excuse me, Lopez sliding into third. The count now 2-1 on John Jay.
St. Louis really trying to be aggressive and put this game away early, trying to get another guy into scoring position, Lopez, who runs pretty well, and heads up play to realize the ball had skipped away and make it all the way to third base.
Stolen a base and then a pass ball to scoring on the play, so a runner at third with 2 down, and the 2-1 to Jay. Fastball inside, ball 3. And the last thing that Fisher wants to do is lose Jay and then have to face Albert Pujols with a couple of men on. Fouled back.
And guys, I think it's very fair to speculate if Mike Leake may be hitting the wall. You know, this is obviously uncharted territory for him. And with all the pitching that Cincinnati has, coming back off the disabled list, you wonder if a tough decision will be made to maybe shut him down for an extended period, especially this late in the year.
Ball 4. Jay takes the walk. So Mike Leake, who gave up no runs on 2 hits in the first 3 innings, has so far allowed 6 runs here this inning, and one of the men on is still his responsibility. And it was fast and furious. 6 consecutive hits to open up this inning for the Cardinals, capped by the Schumacher grand slam. And it may not be over yet. First and third, 2 down for Albert Pujols, who singled and scored earlier this inning. Curveball stays high.
And I know we've been pounding that point. I think Aaron brought up a great point about him not being in the minor leagues. This might be the time he hits the wall. That's where the minor leagues comes into play a lot of times. Is he talented to be here? Absolutely. But the minor leagues might give you that time to build that strength, get used to it, to see what it's like to pitch later in the season. And not only that, for me, I thought the minor leagues was also a stepping stone to learn how to fail. I mean, we see Dusty Baker right now. He's got a tough decision going, okay, how do I have this guy who's so talented? How do I work him? How do I get him some rest? He doesn't really know, because he hasn't experienced the minor leagues, know what he does when he fails down there, to say, okay, what do we got to get him back on track? And to me, that's what the minor leagues is about, is to fail down there. Don't fail up here in the big leagues. Fail down there. Realize what it takes to get yourself back on track so you can be successful all year long.
Meanwhile, Fisher has yet to throw Pujols a fastball. He's fallen behind 3-0 on breaking balls. Matt Holliday on deck should the inning continue. There's a fastball, and he drills it in over the outside corner. 3-1. Lopez at third, Jay at first, 2 down in what is already a 6-run inning for the Cardinals. Breaking ball pulled foul, full count. Well, I'll tell you, this city has been talking about this series for so long because Cincinnati's in the kind of position they haven't been in many, many years. This team has had 9 consecutive losing seasons. This is the best record they've had at this point of the year since 1999. A team, Aaron, that you were a part of that we can talk about a little bit more as time permits. But this inning has just taken all the air out of the balloon here at Great American Ballpark, all the life out of the ballpark. There goes the runner from first, and the 3-2 is lined into left, a base hit. Lopez will score. Jay will stop at second. RBI single Pujols. 7-0 Cardinals.
And a masterful at bat by Pujols. Finally gets a pitch that he knows he can handle, a fastball center cut, and he drills it into left field past an outstretched Paul Janisch at shortstop. But you're right, Dan. I mean, the air has been sucked out of this building at this point. So much excitement, anticipation, build up for this series, and rightfully so. And what was looking like a pitching duel 15 minutes ago has become a Cardinal runaway.
And you played here, Aaron, for a number of years, including on that '99 team. And it seems when you talk to people here locally, there's so much excitement about the team. But there's the other side of it is it almost seems as if Reds fans are wondering, when will that stop? What will go wrong? Is this too good to be true? Ground ball to short. Bobbled, picked up, on to first in time, and finally the inning is over. But not before the Cardinals score 7 runs, 4 of them on one swing of Skip Schumacher's bat. Beautiful view here from our vantage point at Great American Ballpark. Not so beautiful, though, for the Cincinnati fans, whose team just allowed 7 runs in the top of the 4th. Cardinals lead 7-0. The Reds with one of the longest droughts since last reaching the postseason in all of baseball. It was 1995, the last time that the Reds had advanced to the playoffs. Painful memory to the man sitting to my right, but in 1999, the Cincinnati Reds lost a 1-game playoff to the New York Mets. Won 96 games that year, right? And 96. Lost out for the wild card.
Al Leiter ran us down on a 1-game playoff to get in. But, you know, this is such a proud baseball city that I know personally I love seeing the excitement back here, because the last 9-10 years have been some lean years. But I feel like this should be a town much like St. Louis in the Midwest. Rich in tradition, proud. They love the Reds, are important to them. And hopefully they're starting to build on not only this, but in future years, and their system is rich, so you would think they'd have staying power.
There's ball 4. Joey Votto draws the leadoff walk. Of course, one of the great moments that Cincinnati Reds fans can remember, you go back to the last time they won the World Series 20 years ago. Could it be that long? 1990. There's Randy Myers delivering the final pitch. Todd Benzinger making the catch as the Reds sweep the heavily favored Oakland Athletics. And to win the World Series, Jose Rijo named most valuable player of the World Series. That was owner Marge Schott and manager Lou Piniella after the World Series. And they have had some great players since, some good teams through the 90s. You go back further, of course, the Big Red Machine in the 70s. And as you say, Aaron, the tradition here, I mean, this team dates back just about as far as any team in baseball for so many years. This was the town where baseball's traditional opening day game was held. It was always a day game, and it was always here. This is how baseball started every season. And this is one of these grandfather to father to son kind of baseball towns. And they're in first place right now. The first time they've been in this spot this late in the season since 1999. You got a lot of the young guys, a lot of the talented guys on this team have not won before, have not been through a pennant race before. What is now a 2-team race, but Dusty Baker, Walt Jocketty hoping that the Rollins, Cabreras, Edmonds as of today, Kairos, that these guys can help get those young guys over the top. Ground ball to first, backhanded by Pujols. They'll get the lead runner back to first in time. Beautifully done by the Cardinal infield. Let's go back to the studio. Here's Anish Shroff.
All right, we go out to Camden Yards. Orioles, White Sox. Those 5-1 since Buck Showalter took over. That's Alex Rios, though, off of Brian Mattis. Rios, an RBI double. White Sox center play with a half-game lead over Minnesota in the AL Central.
And a series that will begin against Minnesota tomorrow night. Two more division contenders. This time the American League Central. They got a big series starting tomorrow night. Nomar, take us through this 3-6-3.
Well, this double play right here, Albert Pujols over there on the bag just makes a great throw to first base, which is really important, especially when you don't know if you're going to be able to get back to the bag and the pitcher might have to cover first base. But he's able to make a good throw and get back to the bag. That's textbook double play.
How about Ryan getting out of the way of the runner by actually fading off toward the outfield? His momentum kind of carrying him away from the play, but showed some pretty good arm strength. Here's Edmonds. And a pitch of the knees. The count is 1-2.
Ryan did do a great job on turning that play, but what I really liked about it too was he was standing right behind second base rather than inside or outside, so the runner has no idea where to run at you and gives a better throw for Albert Pujols to make.
Carpenter with the big curveball to strike out Jim Edmonds and end the inning, enjoying a 7-run lead at the end of 4. MLB.TV, the ultimate baseball experience, featuring 100 out-of-market games per week live on your computer. For more details, visit MLB.TV, where baseball is always on. Back for the top of the 5th here in Cincinnati. Along with Nomar Garciaparra and Aaron Boone, I'm Dan Schulman. It is 7-0 for the Cardinals. Colby Rasmus will lead off the inning against Carlos Fisher. And look at a strike. The Cardinals getting all 7 of their runs in the 4th inning when they knocked Mike Leake out of the game. Rasmus was in on that with an RBI single. Chase the breaking ball in the dirt quickly in the hole. 0-2.
And I think these two teams with Rasmus here, Drew Stubbs, who is not in the lineup tonight, I think are two future stars in center field that'll be playing against each other for a long time. Both extremely athletic. Stubbs really fast, can really go get it in center field.
0-2 on the way, and it's high.
But also both guys with live bats that have the ability to drive the ball out of the ballpark, and I think are going to be around for a long time and playing in some midsummer classics. I think they're that kind of a talent.
Rasmus with 18 home runs in just 331 at bats. He's also got 20 doubles. He's got 10 stolen bases. It's overshadowed, obviously, with Pujols here, Matt Holliday. Batting in the 5 spot. The 2-2 is up and away, and all of a sudden the count is full.
And Rasmus, Holliday, Yadier Molina, these are the guys that need to do it down the stretch, and if ultimately they make it into the postseason, because you know when push comes to shove, teams are not going to allow Albert Pujols to beat them.
Swing and a miss at a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. 1 down. Well, let's compare these two teams, the top 2 teams in the National League Central. The Reds right now 2 games ahead of the Cardinals. Cincinnati's the best offensive team in the National League. They've got more power. They've got better defense this year than the Cardinals. Where St. Louis has the advantage overall on the season is pitching, especially the front end of that rotation with Carpenter and Wainwright in whatever order you want to put them. Although Cincinnati's pitching, tonight notwithstanding, has been really good lately. You know, I don't know that they have a guy. They don't have a guy who stacks up with Adam Wainwright or Chris Carpenter. Most teams don't. But boy, that's as formidable a 1-2 perhaps as any team in baseball. Wainwright, by the way, will pitch the 3rd game of this series Wednesday afternoon.
You're absolutely right. And you see Carpenter, and then they add a guy like Jake Westbrook. We talked about him earlier, but you have Jaime Garcia, who's your 3rd guy, who's been doing a great job as a rookie. And I think the Cardinals are going to have, if they're able to make to the postseason, are going to have an interesting decision to make on their hand, where you want to have 3 solid pitchers. You have Carpenter and Wainwright, obviously. Then who's that third one? Westbrook could be that third guy, or is it going to be Jaime Garcia? And if you pick Jaime Garcia, Westbrook's a great guy to have out of the pen because he's got a lot of movement, sinking ball, can get that ground ball if you have a guy on first to get you that double play. What a great option to have if you're Tony La Russa.
Molina called out on strikes, 2 down. Well, you look at the starting pitching ranks right now, and the Cardinals lead the National League in wins and ERA in their rotation, and the vast majority of that comes from the top 3. Kyle Lohse, Brad Penny are both on the DL. Blake Hawksworth was filling in. Jeff Suppan still is in the rotation for the Cardinals, although he was skipped over yesterday because of the rainout. But it's Wainwright and Carpenter who have done most of the damage so far for the Cardinals, whether it's wins, ERA, wins within their own division. They've just been a dominant duo this year. Here's Schumacher. Off Fisher. Bounces to the left side of the infield. No play. It'll be a base hit for Schumacher, who hit the grand slam that really broke it open last inning.
If you're a hitter, I think this is just great by Schumacher right here. After hitting a grand slam, you have a tendency to get big. You want to hit another home run. You're feeling good, and instead he just takes where he's given that pitch, stays down through the ball, and drives it back up the middle. As a hitter, you're also feeling good that, all right, you're always taught, hit it right back at the pitcher. If you hit the pitcher, great. You don't want to hurt him, but if you hit him, good job of hitting. And that tells me not only hitting that grand slam, and his grand slam was over to left center, kind of the opposite field. So he's really staying through the ball, and he continued that in that last at-bat by staying up the middle with that pitch.
And look, Schumacher's another very important guy to this club. He's struggled for much of this year offensively, whereas in the last couple of seasons.
Carpenter hits it pretty well, right center field, and Bruce makes a nice running catch.
And there you see the athleticism of the Cincinnati Reds in play. Jay Bruce, one of the best right fielders in the game, that goes a long way and makes it look easy.
Bottom of the 5th, and Chris Carpenter and the St. Louis Cardinals have a 7-0 lead here in the first game of this all-important series between the Reds and Cardinals. Just 2 games separating them in the National League Central. Cincinnati in first, St. Louis in second. Jay Bruce, the right fielder, looks at a fastball over the outside corner for his strike. Bruce with a fly ball to right field his first time up. A guy who had been in a terrible slump. Yesterday had 3 hits and a couple of RBIs. Remember a couple of years ago, he comes up 2008, goes 11 for his first 19 in the big leagues. But as all young players do, there have been some peaks and valleys since then. Boy, look at the run on that 2-seamer as Carpenter tried to bring it back over the inside corner.
His ball moves so much. I mentioned that before the game, that it just doesn't seem like he doesn't throw anything down the middle of the plate. It's either catching the corners or it's off the plate. It looks like it starts off in the middle of the plate. It's like he's one of those pitchers. I think Brandon Webb was another one that I always say. I think the catcher can just get right behind, right in the middle of the plate, and say throw to the glove, because he knows that the ball will just move right off of it, catch the corner or enough off of it, and you just swing, ground ball, you miss it. That's what Chris Carpenter is so effective.
Been a nightmare for Cincinnati too the last couple of years. Bruce takes down and in, and the count runs full.
And to take it a step further, when you're 6'6", 6'7", like Carpenter is, and you've got that electric stuff, and it gives the appearance that you're throwing from the sky and really throwing downhill, and as hitters getting what we call tilt on the baseball.
Bruce draws the leadoff walk. Nomar, let's break Carpenter down a little bit more.
Well, the other as a hitter, what you're looking at, here he is, and he's throwing his fastball. And watch where he releases this fastball. And we're going to go to his curveball. Same release point.
And then he goes to his other pitch after that is a slider. Once again, the exact same spot. And as a hitter, you're trying to pick something up. He doesn't slow his body down. Even in the changeup, nothing changes. It's the same arm slot. You're seeing the ball coming in the same spot every time. And then late life, late movement right off the plate.
Ramon Hernandez sends a fly ball to center field. Righted Rasmus for out number 1.
And as we look right here, you can see that the circle is perfect. Look at the arm slot in all 4 of his pitches. This is extremely difficult to notice what type of pitch is coming at you as a hitter. You're relying on checking out the spin. You're checking out everything. His arm slot, you're trying to adjust to the speed, and it makes it so difficult to adjust that as a hitter. Hitting is all about timing, and seeing that same arm slot, it makes him so good.
Paul Janisch swings at the first pitch. Pop up to short, 2 down.
So interesting from the Reds' perspective there. After Bruce was able to work the walk, both Hernandez and Janisch both go up and swing at the first pitch, down 7-0. Not typically something you'd want to do, but against a tough customer like Carpenter, and probably clearly the game plan, they're sticking to their guns.
Now, Dusty Baker had Juan Francisco, a pinch hitter in the on-deck circle, but after Janisch popped up, he called Francisco back and sent the pitcher, Carlos Fisher, up to hit. So a rare at-bat here for a reliever.
But Dusty right now is thinking, okay, Carlos Fisher is my long guy. I want to stretch him out as much as I can here instead of bringing out another guy in the bullpen, sending up a pitcher, a pinch hitter. We already got 2 outs, man on first base. Let him get his at bat. Let me try to get another inning out of Carlos Fisher so I can save my bullpen.
And it's absolutely the correct move. You've got to save yourself when you have a chance to have a big inning, because it's going to take a big inning ultimately to get back in this game.
3 pitches and gone without Fisher ever swinging. 5 in the books in Cincinnati, 7-0 Cardinals.
ESPN Monday Night Baseball, presented by Vonage, is brought to you by Arby's, home of the new Junior Deluxe Sandwich, part of our value menu starting at $1. Wells Fargo, together we'll go far. And new Gillette Fusion Pro Glide, turn shaving into gliding and skeptics into believers.
Well, they're trying to turn skeptics into believers about the Cincinnati Reds, but tonight, not so much. Down 7-0 already. Brendan Ryan, first pitch swinging, grounds out to short, 1 down here in the Cardinals' 6th inning. Now, there were those, if you go back to the beginning of the season, everybody involved in ESPN's baseball coverage was asked to make predictions, who would win various divisions and so forth. And there were very few, out of about 30 people who made predictions, only 3 picked the Cincinnati Reds to win the National League Central.
Only 3?
Only 3.
Do we have those names?
Felipe Lopez, the batter, he takes ball 1. And this guy right here is one of them. You doing all right? You feeling good?
Well, so far,
yeah.
Still a long way to go.
I got your predictions.
And it's going to be a dogfight between these 2 teams down the stretch.
I have your predictions. Unfortunately, I don't have mine or Nomar's, but we have yours.
Perfect. You know why? Because we didn't pick Cincinnati. Although I think we did pick the team they're playing against. But
you're doing all right, Aaron. Right now, Cincinnati's on top by 2 games over the Cardinals. What was it about the Reds? Take us back to March. What was it about the Reds that you liked so much?
Well, I liked their system. Really was starting to produce a lot of really good arms. You know, Cueto, Bronson Arroyo, who's been so underrated in his time in Cincinnati, to go along with Harang, what was unknown about Aroldis Chapman.
Knocked down by Fisher. Felipe Lopez retired 2 down.
I just felt like there was a lot of pitching depth within their rotation. I thought they had what's been an elite closer, a guy that's been very dynamic in the back end of the bullpen, and Coco Cordero over the years. And then the emerging superstar in Jay Votto. He's been on this track for the last few years to go along with Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce, the little I saw of Drew Stubbs last year. I just felt like this is a team that is going to start producing a lot of star players and athletic players.
John Jay, the batter. And he takes low ball 1. Now you did have, before you get in trouble in St. Louis, you picked the Cardinals to win the wild card.
I did, which still could absolutely happen, especially with the
a little pop up. Giannis is there. Jay retired. 1, 2, 3 go the Cardinals in the 6th inning. Can the Reds get anything going? Top of the order, including MVP candidate Joey Votto. He's due up 3rd when we come back. Back in Cincinnati with the Cardinals continuing to lead the Reds 7-0 as we go to the bottom of the 6th. All 7 runs in the 4th inning. The big hit, the Skip Schumacher grand slam. Mike Leake knocked out in that 4th inning. Chris Carpenter cruising so far. Has allowed only 2 hits through 5 here at Great American Ballpark. One of the best places to hit unless you happen to be a Red facing Chris Carpenter. He's looking for his 9th win in as many starts against the Reds. 1 of them in 2006, 4 of them last year, 3 of them this year. Brandon Phillips will lead it off. Top of the order for the Reds here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Phillips has grounded out twice.
I find this fascinating with Chris Carpenter, and if you're a Cardinals fan and if you're looking at the score right now, and not so happy if you're a Cincinnati fan, is he's 46-0 in 51 career starts in which he's held a 5-run lead during the game. That's just an amazing stat right there.
There's a fastball for a strike. 2-1. He narrowly missed out on winning the Cy Young Award last year. One of the closest races in Cy Young history. Tim Lincecum won it. Carpenter finished 2nd. Adam Wainwright, Carpenter's teammate, finished 3rd. Any of the 3 would have been a great choice to win the Cy Young. Carpenter, of course, already has a Cy Young, as that's fouled back 2-2.
And Wainwright, who finished 3rd, I believe, actually got the most first place votes.
I think you're right, yeah.
Which was interesting and just shows how tight of a race it actually was.
You know, one guy led an ERA, another had more wins, another had the most strikeouts. You couldn't go wrong, regardless of which one you pick. And Wainwright's in the conversation, definitely in the conversation for the Cy Young this year. Backhanded by Pujols. Carpenter covering. 1 down. Let's take a look at one specific pitch that makes Carpenter so tough.
Yeah, we talked about it. Carpenter has relied more on the curveball and gotten away from the slider more this year. And there we see the good depth. The great, we showed the arm slot earlier in the ball game, throwing out of that same window, but we see tremendous depth, and when he gets ahead with 2 strikes, able to bounce that breaking ball, but throwing with that tremendous arm speed and really able to create a lot of torque on the baseball with his wrist and his fingers over top of the baseball to get that excellent spin and ultimately excellent bite, which as a hitter is the thing you fear.
Here's Lance Nix. Base hit and a strikeout so far for the left fielder. Very crowded Cincinnati outfield with Jim Edmonds coming over in the trade today. We are seeing Nix in left, Edmonds in center, Bruce in right. We've talked about Heisey and Stubbs. We haven't mentioned Johnny Gomes, who's another guy who can really swing the bat. We got a lot of options out there.
Our apologies to Johnny Gomes, because he's just really been a huge part of this offense and this lineup for the Cincinnati Reds, especially what he's done with runners in scoring position this year.
Hitting somewhere north of 370 with runners in scoring position on the season. There it is again, that 2-seamer that runs back over the inside corner. As a hitter, what can you do?
Well, not a lot, because the first reaction is you freeze as soon as you see that baseball coming at your front hip. I don't care even if you're expecting it. Your eyes tell you.
That's just not fair.
your eyes tell you that ball's inside, and you quit on it, and it breaks back over the plate, and then he drops Uncle Charlie on the outer half. Thanks for coming.
Time now to take a look at who is stepping up to the plate. Brought to you by One A Day Men's, and a few have stepped up to the plate as productively this year as Joey Votto, runner-up for Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. Top 6 in the National League in all 3 Triple Crown categories. One of Dave Menz is challenging viewers to step up to the plate for your health. Go to AskMLBTrainer.com to get tips from a Major League Baseball athletic trainer. You look at Votto's numbers. You look at Albert Pujols' numbers. And coming up on the outside, fast, Carlos Gonzalez of the Colorado Rockies, who has hit 8 home runs in his last 11 games and is all over National League leaderboards right now. Gonzalez is leading the league in hitting, 4th in homers, 3rd in RBIs. When did that happen?
Don't blink.
How about 3 different guys all being in the top 6 in all 3 Triple Crown categories?
And of course in the American League with Miguel Cabrera, I mean, to be this late in the season and to have that many guys, you know, with a reasonable shot at it, or an outside shot at least, to pull off the feed is truly amazing.
Last Triple Crown, 1967, Carl Yastrzemski. Last National League Triple Crown, Joe Medwick, 1937, St. Louis Cardinals.
And in the down years, Albert Pujols is. We were talking about Albert Pujols on a down year. Gosh, it'd be nice to be that way.
Well, Pujols is on a tear. Carlos Gonzalez is on a tear right now.
And Joey Votto has just been on a tear all year long. Fellow Canadian as well. We got to point that out.
Oakville, right? Ontario.
There you go. So what's the exchange rate right now?
It's about $1.04. It's hardly there. It's hardly there right now.
Wow. What is it? A loony?
It's a loony. There you go.
Any other animals on any monetary things that they have?
None come to mind.
None.
Fair ball into the left field corner. Votto will help that batting average a little bit there with that 2-out double.
And Votto, one of the few Cincinnati Reds players that has had success in his career against Carpenter. He works back into the at-bat, gets a fastball up and out over the plate that he shoots down the left field line. And look, if you're going to win a batting title, Nomar, you've got to be able to use the entire field in most cases. And Votto does that as good as anyone. But there you see a perfect example of a very professional guy, a very intense competitor, also Joey Votto, battling in a 7-0 game, not giving an at-bat away, working himself back into a count against a great pitcher, and ultimately getting a pitch he could handle and drilling it into the corner.
You're Scott Rowland. Nomar, you won 2 batting titles, right?
Yes.
What does it mean? I mean, when we were kids, you looked at batting average in the newspaper every day. We didn't talk about OPS or even on base percentage and slugging. The batting title was huge. You know, remember that George Brett, Hal McRae year? I mean, it meant, you know, Rod Carew, Wade Boggs, and Tony Gwynn, of course. What did it mean to you to win the batting title?
At the time, you're not thinking about it, especially with the team. I was very lucky to play on teams that were always battling for the playoffs to get to the postseason, and that's first and foremost. And I didn't really look at my average. I was going off how I felt. I wanted to be consistently feeling good, putting good wood on the ball, making consistent contact.
Rowland pops it up, but this one will get out of play.
And I thought if I did that, if I really just focused on how I felt on a daily basis and was consistent, the numbers would be there.
Right.
And I really just think about, it's all about winning right now. We're trying to get to the playoffs. There were times I didn't even want to look at my average. I wouldn't look at my I didn't want to. And sometimes they put it all in the front. There are certain scoreboards that you just can't get away from it. But I didn't want to know, because I often every year would like to go sit with my father at the end of the year and talk about how did the year go. And he says, well, how did you feel you hit this year? And I try to come up with the number and see how close it was.
Rowland grounds one to third. Lopez with a long throw in time, and the inning is over. It remains 7-0 at the end of 6. Albert Pujols, who's won a batting title, by the way, and has already had a couple of hits tonight, will lead it off for the Cardinals when we come back. You know what? It happened about that fast in the 4th inning when the Cardinals, the first 6 batters in the 4th inning, all got hits off Mike Leake, all in a span of 12 pitches. And Leake was charged with all 7 runs, 6 of them earned. was knocked out of the game in the 4th inning, and all the scoring was in that half inning. It is 7-0 for the Cardinals as we go to the top of the 7th. Albert Pujols is the batter, 2 for 3. A couple of base hits, both of them in that 4th inning.
You're right, Dan. We had a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel going. It looked like early on, and then 42 seconds later, it was 7-0.
Yeah, and Leake was gone.
Yeah.
Carlos Fisher giving Dusty Baker some innings in a long relief out of the pen. A high strike there to Pujols, who had dropped the bat and started down to first. 3-1. Albert probably forgets what it's like to take a walk. He hasn't walked in his last 11 games coming into tonight. That's the longest stretch without a walk for Pujols since his rookie season. There's ball 4. Now he'll take a walk, and now we'll send it back to Anish Shroff in our Baseball Tonight studio.
On the 7th inning stretch, it's 1800 Tequila taking us out to H-Town, Braves and Astros. And fittingly pour out a shot for Jason Hayward on his 21st birthday. His 12th home run of the season. 2-0 Braves. All this in back of lefty Mike Minor, last year's first-round pick out of Vandy, making his big league debut.
All right, Anish, thank you. And scrolling across the bottom line at that moment, the news that the Seattle Mariners fired manager Don Wakamatsu today. Tough year for managers in the major leagues. You guys surprised that Wakamatsu was let go?
I think all that we were starting to hear out of Seattle in the last month, I don't think it comes as much a surprise. I think the surprising part is
Maybe the timing.
all the positive things that happened in Seattle last year. All the optimism heading into the season. You would have never thought that Don Wakamatsu was a guy on the hot seat, but this season's been so tumultuous up there. You know, questions about the handling of the Ken Griffey Jr. situation and ultimate release. It just got ugly, and I think it sounded like a lost clubhouse, and they felt like they needed to make a change.
Kind of a trendy pick to compete for the American League West title before the season with the pickups they made in the offseason. Fouled back by Holiday, and the count is 1-2.
And he had that incident with Sean Figgins that we saw. And you're absolutely right, Aaron. I think it is a surprise. You saw that it might happen, but it is a surprise, especially after last year and what he's done with that team. And everything I heard about him is just such a great communicator. Guys that, I mean, I was fortunate to play with the Oakland A's last year, and those guys had Wakamatsu before, and every single one of them, when we played Seattle, went up to him and gave him a huge hug. We're so happy to see him. They just couldn't say enough good things about him. So he'll find another job for sure.
Fouled back by Holiday.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's actually Buck Showalter guy. So another place Wakamatsu might resurface is as a bench coach or some kind of coach on Buck Showalter's staff in Baltimore next year. That certainly would be a possibility.
Buck's got him going right now.
Yes, he does. You know, I think Nomar, you know, you've gotten to know him a little bit too. I know working with him at Baseball Tonight, but just seems to me like the perfect guy to take over that situation right now. And I believe he'll ultimately turn that franchise around in the next few years.
Holiday, a swing and a miss for the first out. More Major League action that comes your way later on this week here on ESPN. It begins Wednesday night from the ballpark in Arlington. Cliff Lee and the first place Texas Rangers hosting the New York Yankees. And then Sunday night at Citi Field, it'll be the Mets entertaining the Philadelphia Phillies. Both games also available on ESPN3.com. These are good times right now for the Texas Rangers, who hold the largest lead in Major League Baseball. And they sure look like they are headed to the postseason for the first time since the late 90s, if they can hang on to the lead they've got right now. And of course, Texas made some big additions this year. None bigger than Cliff Lee, who just, you know, so almost robotic in his efficiency. Just goes out there, throws 8 or 9 innings every time out, and has given the Rangers a bona fide ace.
And I think really the Rangers, in my opinion, the real winners at the trade deadline. To have all the bankruptcy, financial issues hanging over that franchise, but still be able to land the big fish and Cliff Lee, the ultimate prize in the trade deadline. And then to be able to add key pieces like a Benji Molina, Jorge Cantu to come add some length to your lineup. Ian Kinsler goes down. You get to add Guzman from Washington. I just think they nailed it in a lot of ways, and I think they're real players now heading into the postseason.
I got a question for you guys. Carlos Fisher has been in this game a long time. Obviously, he's not going to be available for a couple of days after this. What do you think the odds are that the Reds send Fisher back down to the minors? They just called him up Saturday for the injured Russ Springer. What are the odds they send Fisher back down to the minors after this game and bring Aroldis Chapman up tomorrow?
That's a interesting question. I mean, that's definitely an option. We talked about earlier about the depth that they have, not only here in the big leagues but down there in the minors, and it's something that I'm guarantee that Dusty's going to talk about and consider later, especially getting as much as he is out of Carlos Fisher.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Chapman was moved to the bullpen a couple of months ago, and the reports that Walt Jocketty and others have been passing along is that he has really tightened up his mechanics. He's throwing strikes. He's still throwing 102, but he's throwing strikes, and he's been almost unhittable the last few weeks.
So he's lost a little bit.
Yeah. He's pulling the string.
More changeups apparently.
And he could be a real X factor. I mean, remember Francisco Rodriguez when he came up with the Angels in 2002? He wasn't the closer then. Troy Percival was the closer, but K-Rod pitched in the 7th and 8th, could get 6 outs in a game. He won 5 games in the postseason that year.
You know, and if he were to come up and really be dynamic at that back end, this Cincinnati bullpen is shaping up to possibly be a real strength when for much of the season it struggled along with with the exception of Arthur Rhodes, who's been brilliant all season long. But now Nick Massett is starting to really throw the ball well. You had Cordero at the back end.
Called out on strikes, Colby Erasmus for the 2nd out. Well, Aroldis Chapman on the minor league level is about as hot as anybody right now. Let's take a look at who's hot on the major league level. And we have talked about Carlos Gonzalez of the Colorado Rockies already in the incredible run that he's been on, now leading the National League in batting. J.P. Arancibia had a major league debut that no player has ever had before. 4 hits and 2 home runs in his first game. And then Brandon Morrow, in as overpowering a performance as we have seen in this so-called year of the pitcher, struck out 17 and was 1 out away from a no-hitter for Toronto against who else? Tampa Bay, the team that seems to be on the wrong end of so many of these no-hitters recently. The batter is Yadier Molina. 7-0 Cardinals, top of the 7th. What's more impressive, a guy making his major league debut and going 4 for 5 with 2 homers, or a guy striking out 17 in a 1-hitter?
Wow.
It's a pretty good weekend.
I'll tell you one thing that's happening in Toronto is they're setting themselves up to be a real trendy pick heading into next season. With all the power arms they're starting to develop, with all the power they've shown offensively, obviously, this season. And they're going to be a real tough team to beat down the stretch.
You know, if they continue to develop their system and Baltimore gets going, I mean, that division, it's already, Nomar, you played in it for many years.
Very difficult division.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You're still going to be talking about the Red Sox and the Yankees always in that division, and now you're going to be throwing in Baltimore, Toronto, and then we got Tampa Bay Rays. It's an incredible division.
You know, Boston 15 games over 500 with a devastating number of injuries this year, playing in baseball's toughest division, and they're still in the race. They beat the Yankees this afternoon to split that 4-game series.
And I think Terry Francona is my manager of the year so far this year. The way they've been able to piece it together with all that's gone wrong up there, and the fact that they've had so many people contribute, and the fact that they're hanging in there in that beast of an East right now, I think it's arguably Terry Francona's best job to date.
Just outside. And Molina stays in there now with a full count.
And look at this last pitch, a fastball he tried to nail on the outside corner, and it drifted just off. Crowd wanted that call, but good call by Vanover.
Pujols on the move as Molina fouls it back. Well, let's take a look at the near no-hitter for Brandon Morrow yesterday. This is with 2 outs in the 9th. Evan Longoria, the batter. Aaron Hill ranging to his left. Could not come up with it cleanly. Even if he had, who knows if he'd have been able to throw out Longoria, who runs pretty well. Then the next batter, swing and a miss for strikeout number 17. Pujols is halfway to second, and Fisher will step off. So in addition to the 5 no-hitters this year, 2 of them perfect games, there have been 4 other games where a pitcher has taken a no-hitter into the 9th inning. So there have been 9 games this year where a pitcher's taken a no-hitter into the 9th inning. And goes Pujols again, and a swing and a miss by Molina to end the inning. 7th inning stretch in Cincinnati. Chris Carpenter and the Cardinals in cruise control. ESPN Monday Night Baseball, presented by Vonage. Now look at the starting pitching lines, and boy, what different nights for Chris Carpenter and Mike Leake. Very similar nights through 3, and then it evaporated in a hurry on Mike Leake in the 4th inning. Gave up 7 runs, 6 of them earned. That's all the offense in the game. Leake still in the dugout looking on, but not much good news for the hometown Reds. 7-0 Cardinals. Chris Carpenter has thrown only 72 pitches through 6. He'll face his former teammate Jim Edmonds in his first game as a member of the Reds. A fly ball and a strikeout thus far for Edmonds. Edmonds will be followed by Jay Bruce and then Ramon Hernandez. Edmonds coming from Milwaukee. Did not play last year. Had some great years for the St. Louis Cardinals. Remember MV3 back in 2004 when the Cardinals went to the World Series, lost to Boston. But the numbers that Edmonds, Rolen, and Pujols put up that year, where any of the 3 was a viable MVP candidate. Two and 1.
I think people often wonder, what does it mean to have, like, why is so much emphasis on that veteran player? Why do you need that if you're on a young team? Does it really matter going down the stretch? And I say it does, just in case, especially what it takes, because it's new territory. I mean, here's a team that haven't been in the playoffs. Cincinnati Reds haven't been in the playoffs for so long. If there's Dusty, he understands what it means to go out there and bring a veteran to a ball club, to tell these guys not to panic. Just stay where you at to carry you through.
Holiday comes on to make the catch, retiring Edmonds for the first out as we send it back to Anish in the studio.
All right, Dan, the Rays trying to snap a 5-game losing streak. 5th inning, it's Evan Longoria. That's an RBI double. It gave Tampa a 4-1 lead. Right now it's 4-2. Rays leading. If David Price wins, he'd set a franchise record with his 15th win of the season. Dan, Nomar, Aaron, back to you.
All right, Anish, thank you very much. The Rays need some wins. They've got the Red Sox closing in on them a little bit, trying to stay with the Yankees in the American League East. Detroit, meanwhile, recently with all the injuries they've had, they have fallen on hard times and have fallen out right now of the race in the American League Central, which looks like a 2-team race at the moment between the Twins and White Sox.
You know, I think touching a little bit on what you just said, Nomar, I think one of the hopes of bringing Jim Edmonds into Cincinnati, into this situation with young, talented outfielders like Bruce and like Stubbs, is in talking to people in the Reds organization. Look, when Stubbs and Bruce are hot and swinging the bat well, they're as good as it gets. But I think there's those times where when they're struggling, where they really struggle. And I think the feeling is maybe Edmonds can help them mature in making them tougher outs when they are going through tough times at the plate.
That's an excellent point, and how to deal with even a guy such as they're dealing with right now, and Chris Carpenter on the hill. What does it take to have a quality at bat when a guy's dealing right now? What do we have to do to stretch him out to maybe try to get back in this ballgame?
We talk about the competitiveness and the intensity of Carpenter. He's up 7-0 in the 7th inning. He walked a batter, and he is furious with himself. He is scowling behind the mound. He just slammed down the rosin bag. We talk about hitters who never give at-bats away. This is a pitcher who never gives an at-bat away. The batter, Ramon Hernandez, 1 for 2 on the night. And a strike at the knees. Looking ahead to the next 2 games in this series, Jaime Garcia will start tomorrow night for St. Louis against Johnny Cueto, who's 11-2. And then Wednesday afternoon, it'll be Adam Wainwright, 16-6 against Bronson Arroyo, who quietly has won 12 games already this year. He's 12-6.
You know, he's quietly been a very good pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds for the last several seasons and doesn't get the recognition he probably deserves.
Fair ball. Bruce on his way to third. He's getting the wave. And will score easily on the RBI double by Hernandez, and the Reds are on the board now, trailing 7-1.
And Chris Carpenter has been effective all day, and here's a ball that kind of, I tell you, doesn't throw anything down the middle, and we saw that in the K zone right there, how the ball was kind of going inside on Ramon Hernandez, and he does an excellent job getting his hands inside that ball, getting the barrel out in front to drive it down the left field line for a double, and still hustling, even down 7-0. Jay Bruce hustling around those bases to score a run and get an RBI for Ramon Hernandez.
And that hustle you mentioned there, Nomar, is become a real hallmark for this Cincinnati Red team. You know, we think of the Los Angeles Angels and their ability to go first and third and to be really aggressive on the base pass. Well, one area of strength for this Reds team this year has been their ability to go first and third. You see in a 7-0 game there, Jay Bruce, as soon as that ball was hit, was thinking, I'm scoring here. Whereas a lot of situations you think, all right, let me get to third base, not run into an out. But he was very aggressive right off the get-go and made it an easy decision for Mark Berry, the third base coach, to send him and basically have no play at the plate. But I think that's something that's been instilled in this team and is the influence of a Scott Rowland or an Orlando Cabrera, who at the beginning of the season laid down the law with this team, saying, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to play it hard all the time. And you see that playing out tonight.
The batter now is Paul Janisch. The Reds have scored once here, now trail 7-1. A pinch hitter, Juan Francisco, has come out of the pitcher spot on deck for the Reds. And there's a strike. 1-1 the count on Janisch. Filling in for the injured Orlando Cabrera, who was on the DL with an oblique strain. On an awkward swing, kind of overextended himself. We saw Cabrera briefly in Dusty Baker's office before the game, and he's hoping to get back relatively soon. Nomar, I know you went through this kind of an injury, and it's kind of tricky to predict how long it'll take.
It's a very tough injury because there are times where it just feels good and you're thinking it's all right, and it can take one swing or one false move to strain it again. So you really have to be careful.
Janisch, known as a very good defensive player, but Aaron, he's come up, Dusty Baker says, with a key run-producing hit almost every game since he's taken over for Cabrera.
Yeah, anyone you talk to in this organization or around baseball, when you mention Paul Janisch, he's about as good as it gets defensively at shortstop. But like you said,
not this time. Nice play by Lopez at third. And out at first, a big stretch by Pujols to get the out.
Well, Janisch looked like he got a hanging breaking ball and smoked it to third base. Lopez with a very good play to pick up a tough in-between hop. He's able to stay with it, has plenty of time, and just pulls Pujols off the bag, but he's able to keep his toe there and secure the baseball and ultimately get the out.
At the end there, the ball actually popped out of Pujols' glove, and it was rolling on the ground right here, and you see him pick it up right before Janisch crosses first base.
You know, I think Pujols probably stretched a little early towards the third baseman there and got himself to where he couldn't reach with his leg to make it an easier play for him. Actually, I don't think that was that bad of a throw by Lopez.
Here's Juan Francisco batting for the pitcher, Carlos Fisher. Francisco, a third baseman by trade, has been up and down this year, mostly in the minors. A guy who's got some power, 16 home runs on the season, and he has been named the Reds minor league hitter of the year each of the last 2 years. A run in on the Hernandez double. He's at second, 2 down. St. Louis leading 7-1, bottom of the 7th. Left-hander Trevor Miller is up in the Cardinals, and Yadier Molina's going out to the mound right now. Dave Duncan, the pitching coach, has already been to the mound this inning.
Interesting. He's been laboring a lot this inning, even since Duncan.
He has been laboring, but here we see throughout the game the times where he is not laboring. That curveball, Aaron mentioned it earlier, that his curveball has been his pitch that he's gone to get these strikeouts. And we see here he's got 5 strikeouts on the day, and he's just been pounding that breaking ball. It's getting it down in the zone to get the swing, and when they're not swinging at it, hitters have a tendency to give up on it when it looks high in the zone, and with that sharp break, drops down right for a strike.
Behind Francisco, 2-0. And there's a strike, 2-1.
And one thing, if you're a Cincinnati Red fan, you obviously have a poor outing by the starting pitcher, but Carlos Fisher really picks up the staff and able to get deep into this game and not burn up the bullpen.
Base hit left side. Hernandez will come in to score. 7-2.
Here we see just a fastball tailing away, got to the outside corner. Francisco with a good job of not trying to do too much with it, shoots it into the hole, and Carpenter not happy, frustrated. He's been frustrated this entire inning, and it's cost him a couple runs so far. But getting back to the job Fisher does, at worst he saves the bullpen. You don't burn him out. You got still a couple games to go in this series, and when you get in that bullpen early and often, you can mess up the whole entire series going forward.
The batter is Brandon Phillips, probably last batter for Carpenter, whether he gets him or not. A couple of lefties due up next, and Nixon Novato, the left-hander Miller, warming in the pen for the Cardinals. The Carpenter's only in the 90s right now, 94 pitches, but it's a very warm night, and he's had to work awfully hard here this inning. Now Brendan Ryan, look where he's playing, almost up the middle. Now again, Francisco, a left-handed batter, but on a running fastball away, likely a pitch that Francisco is going to take the other way, and he took it through what turned out to be kind of a vacated hole there on the left side of the infield, because Ryan was pretty much playing behind second base.
Well, as a defender there, you're not going to move with the pitch. You have a scouting report that you go over before each series that you have with Francisco. So you have a set spot that every position player is going to play, and it's upon the pitcher to pitch accordingly. Well, he shot the hole. Carpenter frustrated, because normally that's a play, if you're playing straight up, that's probably a routine play.
So Nomar, if the pitch is a curveball, or if the pitch is a two-seam fastball away, you're standing in the same spot?
Well, you have to, because if you move from that spot, you're already telling the hitter what pitch is coming.
Yep.
So you have to wait. You might be able to lean and anticipate to get maybe, I guess cheating a little bit, or anticipate where the ball might be hit, but you can't move because it just tells too much to the hitter.
2-2. Chopper to short. Ryan has this one, and the inning is over. The Reds get a couple off Chris Carpenter. They now trail 7-2 at the end of 7.
ESPN Monday Night Baseball is presented by Vonage. Sounds good. And in part by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. And Dave & Buster's, Escape into Play.
7-2 Cardinals, top of the 8th here in Cincinnati. The Reds just got their 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning. In between innings, Chris Carpenter again, and he's been, even by his standards, unusually intense tonight and frustrated at times. And we are surmising that he was upset with where Brendan Ryan was playing when Juan Francisco came up. You can see Albert Pujols coming over to Brendan Ryan, say hang with him. Dave McKay coming over. Jose Agendo coming over. Strength in numbers, I guess. What we don't know is what the scouting report on Juan Francisco was. It was the scouting report not to Carpenter's liking? Was Ryan not playing where he was supposed to be playing? And even if you're positioning a guy perfectly, sometimes they hit the ball to a different part of the field.
Absolutely. Right? And initially, when I saw Carpenter's reaction during the inning, I felt like he was frustrated with the scouting report and where they had him playing. Seeing that, what we just saw in the dugout, the reaction from the coaches, maybe that Ryan was actually out of position.
And for those who weren't with us at the very beginning of the game, Carpenter was frustrated with Brendan Ryan. When he took the mound in the bottom of the first, there was something wrong evidently with Brendan Ryan's glove. So right as Carpenter was getting ready to deliver his first pitch of the night, Ryan called time and got a new glove brought out to him from the dugout. And at the end of that half inning, Carpenter took Ryan down the tunnel. And Ryan didn't say boo, and he stood there, and Carpenter obviously was upset. He said, hey, I was ready to go. You're messing up my rhythm. Pitchers, as you guys know, creatures of habit. I mean, Nomar was a creature of habit too, so you got to be sympathetic.
What are you talking about?
But I mean, Carpenter, good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. You know, he wants things done a certain way, and he's very intense, as we've talked about. And he's been really frustrated a couple of times tonight, even with a 5-run lead. Schumacher called out on strikes. Bill Bray comes into the game and retires his first batter. Let's go back to the first. This is the story we were just talking about. Just as the game is about to begin, Brendan Ryan says, I need a new glove. And Carpenter was on the mound, ready to start pitching. And he's upset. He's upset on the mound. And he's upset after the inning. He summoned Brendan Ryan.
And you know, it's hard to speculate because we don't know the history there. We don't know if that's something that has occurred before. But I think there's a fine line between addressing that issue and, you know, overdoing it too much from Carpenter's standpoint to where you have your shortstop playing a little timid. Because let's face it, your shortstop, especially as a pitcher with a good sinker ball, he's a pretty important guy to you. You don't want to lose him.
You're absolutely right, especially a young guy. And Brendan Ryan's done a great job at short all year for them, especially pitchers such as Chris Carpenter having to make plays. We talked about that Chris Carpenter can not only strike you out, but he relies on that ground ball when guys are on base to get that double play. And you want your shortstop to be in the game. And we don't know if Brendan Ryan might have broken a string and needed a new glove. We don't know what the situation is.
Alan Craig, meanwhile, comes on as a pinch hitter for Carpenter. So Carpenter's night is officially done.
And he was upset where he was positioned the last inning. Sometimes you got to get on your coaches or whoever's out there watching it to see if you guys are positioned properly. Even a veteran pitcher. Some veteran pitchers that I know that I've played with, even though the scouting report might tell me to play up the middle on this lefty, they'll turn around and look at me, and they maybe have had experience off them, or say, you know what, instead of playing, move over, because I know I'm going to pitch. He knows himself he's going to pitch this guy away, so he might punch that hole with the ball. So I will listen and move over to him, going against the scouting report because they know. So, you know, Chris Carpenter says, you know, he's gotten smarter, thinking more on the hill. He's got to be aware of that as well.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Bill Bray. Let's check in back in the studio with Anish Shroff.
All right, Dan. Atlanta rookie Mike Minor held the Astros scoreless until the fourth. Houston getting 3 runs in the fourth. Brett Wallace, an RBI double. Wallace was called up when Lance Berkman was traded. He came to Houston as part of that 3-team trade that sent Roy Oswalt to Philly. 3-2 Stros in the fourth. Guys?
The Houston Astros, the highest scoring team in the National League since the All-Star break.
And for a team that had all kinds of trouble scoring runs the entire first half of the season, quite a turnaround for them so far in the second half.
Here's Ryan, 0 for 3. And a pop-up shallow right field. Bruce is there and the inning is over. Carpenter's night is done. The Reds will come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, trailing 7-2. The Little League World Series continues on ESPN tomorrow with both Southwest Regional semifinal games. It begins at 3 Eastern with Arkadelphia taking on the winner of Russell, Louisiana and Eagle Pass, Texas. Then at 6 Eastern, it'll be Pearland, Texas against Grand Junction, Colorado. The Little League World Series presented by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes Reduced Sugar on ESPN tomorrow. Out of the Cardinal pen, veteran left-hander Trevor Miller making his 42nd appearance of the season. Dusty Baker immediately sends up a pinch hitter. His right-hand hitting Chris Heisey will bat for left-hand hitting Lance Nix. And all Heisey has done as a pinch hitter this year is hit not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 pinch hit home runs. Not this time on a pop-up near first base. Pujols in fair territory, 1 down. So Heisey retired, and now Joey Votto will come up. The Reds showing some signs of life in the bottom of the 7th. They got a couple of runs, but still down 7-2. If St. Louis wins this game, they'll move within a single game of the Reds for top spot in the National League Central. After this series, tomorrow night and Wednesday, there will be a 3-game series at Busch Stadium in the first week of September. The only 3 games that remain after this series between these two teams.
And you know, we've talked a lot about Wood and Leak tonight for the Reds, uncharted territory. Well, really, Jaime Garcia, St. Louis Cardinals starting pitcher tomorrow, is in a similar boat. His first full season at the major league level, coming off of Tommy John surgery in 2008, so missed most of last season. And he hasn't been as dominant as he was in the first half, so you know, that is a situation you know the Cardinals will be monitoring closely, and especially with Loesch, possibly Penny coming back at some point. It'll be interesting to see how the rotation unfolds for the Cardinals going forward down the stretch.
Loesch is coming back from a forearm injury that required surgery. He's on rehab right now. He's made 3 starts and 1 more, and then he could be back, although he hasn't. His last time out, he wasn't all that successful statistically in that minor league start. Lined back to the mound right at Miller. Votto retired, 2 down. Well, it's getting to that time where every game means more, and there are a lot of interesting races in the majors right now, including the White Sox and Twins at the bottom of your screen there. They will begin a 3-game series tomorrow. Steven Strasburg is scheduled to come off the DL tomorrow and pitch at home against the Florida Marlins. Shane Victorino is expected to come off the DL on Friday. Utley's still a couple of weeks away. Howard needs some more time. He's on the DL, but you know what? Philadelphia's hanging around, guys. They're hanging around.
It's like their big guys have gone on the DL, and all of a sudden they decide now to start hitting and scoring runs. Those guys were just holding them back.
They're only 2 games back of Atlanta entering tonight's action.
If they can just get into the postseason, Philadelphia, obviously they become a very dangerous club with the addition of Roy Oswalt, the way Cole Hamels has been throwing the ball for most of the season, obviously with Halladay at the top of that rotation. And then, you know, Howard at some point coming back, Utley at some point coming back. We saw Victorino coming back this week. All of a sudden they become, you know, a team that's been to the World Series 2 years in a row, and certainly a team capable of doing it again.
I think the last National League team to make the World Series 3 years in a row is the Cardinals.
Yeah.
42, 43, 44. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Two and 2 the count on Scott Rowland. And a pitch away, full count. 7 runs in the 4th for the Cardinals, 2 runs in the 7th for the Reds. Chris Carpenter looking for win number 13, and the Cardinals looking to get within a game of the Reds in the NL Central. Ball 4. Well, every division is tight right now in the National League. Atlanta leads Philadelphia by 2 games. Philadelphia, though, on the verge of getting healthier. Cincinnati leads St. Louis by 2, but it could be 1 after tonight. San Diego leads San Francisco by 2. And guess which 2 teams begin a series on Friday? And things are just as close in the wild card race.
And guys, I think it's safe to say, since the implementation of the wild card to Major League Baseball, in my opinion, it's been an overwhelming success.
Jim Edmonds skies one on the infield. And in Edmonds' first game as a Cincinnati Red, he's over 4. The inning is over. 8 innings complete. 7-2 Cardinals. Top of the 9th inning here at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati in front of a crowd of 36,353. Not much good news, though, for the Reds, trailing 7-2. Heisey will stay in the game after pinch hitting for Nixon to play left field. And out of the Cincinnati bullpen comes right-hander Logan Ondrusek, who has gone 21 consecutive innings since allowing a run. Top of the Cardinal order, Felipe Lopez, the third baseman, 1 for 4, will lead it off. And taken out of his hands for ball 1. 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the Cardinals. 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors for the Reds. Lopez really more of a middle infielder, but having to play a lot of third base. David Freese is out for the season, suffered a bone bruise in his ankle, and then on rehab suffered a torn tendon in the ankle, will require surgery, and they hope he's ready for next year. So Lopez kind of holding down the fort with mixed reviews defensively at third base right now. And with the rumor mill still flying here in the month of August, talk the Cardinals may be looking for a third baseman.
One thing Felipe Lopez does bring is a very good at bat at the top of the order. Guy capable of getting on base with some pop in his bat. If he can.
Chases the breaking ball, 1 down. Let's go back to the studio. Anish Shroff with Sports Center right now.
Thank you, Dan. Earlier this afternoon, the Red Sox earned a split in their 4-game series with the Yanks, winning 2-1. John Lester, 6 1/3 innings, did not give up a run. Meanwhile, the Seattle Mariners fired manager Don Wakamatsu. 3 of his coaches were also fired. Darren Brown takes over as interim skipper.
And tough times continue for the Mariners this year after all the high hopes generated by the offseason moves. Here's John Jay. The Cincinnati pen has certainly done its job tonight to give the offense a chance. Carlos Fisher went 3 1/3 shutout innings, struck out 5. Bill Bray went an inning and struck out a couple of batters, and now Logan Ondrusek has struck out the first batter that he's faced.
And Ondrusek, another one of those arms in the pen that Dusty Baker was raving about today. Big, tall kid. Really that downhill, hard fastball slider combination. And he's pitched very well in this kind of re-emergent bullpen of the Cincinnati Reds.
Grounded up the middle, a base hit for Jay, who's now 2 for 4. John Jay out of the University of Miami burst onto the scene about 6 weeks ago and just hit so much they couldn't get him out of the lineup. And as we talked about, really, if Jay doesn't produce like he does, Ryan Ludwig doesn't get traded, Jake Westbrook's not a Cardinal, and this is a much different looking team.
I mean, just look, the month of July that he has had, he batted .431 for the month of July to lead all NL hitters and had a .500 on base percentage just for the month. So, and Tony La Russa just, we talked to Dusty Baker before the game, and he was just praising his young players on his team, and Tony La Russa speaks highly of John Jay equally, of just, he has the total package, patience, and acts like a veteran up here.
But Pujols, the batter, and quickly looking at an 0-2 count. Albert tonight 2 for 3, a couple of singles. He scored a run, driven in a run, and also drawn a walk. Cease.
And look, that swing right there, you see Albert Pujols take a swing like that. That says a lot about the quality of Andrusic's stuff. Even though it's 0-2, you don't see Albert Pujols fooled that bad very often. And it just shows you a big, tall right-hander that throws hard downhill with a good breaking ball. Can be tough even for the greatest of them.
Lays off that breaking ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Pujols.
And Pujols able to just foul off that ball, because that was a very good pitch. You couldn't tell if it was going to be a strike on the outside corner. It started breaking away, and he just did a good job just fouling it off to give himself a chance here.
Back to third, throw to second, one on to first in time. No good defense by the Cincinnati infield to the bottom of the 9th. The Reds down by 5. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues Wednesday and Sunday nights. Wednesday night, Cliff Lee will be on the mound for the first-place Texas Rangers as they host the New York Yankees. Then Sunday night, a National League East matchup. The Philadelphia Phillies are at Citi Field to take on the Mets at 8 Eastern. Both games also available on ESPN3.com. Bottom of the 9th here at Great American Ballpark. Trevor Miller back out for his second inning of work in relief of Chris Carpenter, who stands to get his 13th win of the season tonight if Miller can finish off the Reds. The Cardinals 7 and the Reds 2. Miguel Cairo is going to come up as a pinch hitter for Jay Bruce. Got a right-handed bat in there, and now Tony La Russa evidently is going to counter that move, and he will go into his pen. Kyle McClellan is on his way into the game as Miller leaves, so we'll step aside as McClellan warms up. 3 outs to go, and the Cardinals up by 5.
Anish Shroff with you in studio. The White Sox trail the Orioles going into the 9th inning. Paul Konerko, a solo home run to tie it in the 9th. It's 2-2. Konerko's 28th of the season. Let's go back to Cincinnati. Reds and Cards.
7-2. Cardinals over the Reds. Bottom of 9. New pitcher right-hander Kyle McClellan into the game. Miguel Cairo came on as a pinch hitter for Jay Bruce. Tony La Russa counters with a right-hander. You want to pitch out of the Cardinal pen, you better have a lot of facial hair. It appears to be a requirement if you're going to be in their bullpen. This is a quality guy. You know, we've talked about Roland and Cabrera and so forth. This is another quality guy. Just about every good team has a guy like Cairo. Can pinch hit, can play a number of different positions. You don't lose much when you go to the bench. Keeps himself ready whenever he's called upon.
It's those role players, and unfortunately I think those role players are slowly diminishing out of baseball. They're so valuable because you know what you're going to get from him year after year. He's so solid. He can pinch hit for you. Go in there. Another role player here. Randy Wins, another guy in the outfield for the Cardinals that you know what you're going to get year after year. And a lot of teams sometimes think they can fill that role with a young guy and just bring him up and say he can fill in that job.
Fly ball shallow left field. Holiday coming in, 1 down. Let's send it back to Anish Shroff in the studio.
Dan, the Braves have taken the lead on the Astros. Brian McCann, All-Star Game MVP. 2-run homer for the Braves. Atlanta up 4-3. Baseball tonight follows the game here on ESPN.
Atlanta, as we talked about earlier, just 2 games up on the Philadelphia Phillies in the National League East, entering play tonight. So big game as they all will be the rest of the way. Atlanta and Philadelphia have 6 games left with one another. I think all of them come in the last 2 weeks of the season. Here's Ramon Hernandez with 1 down in the bottom of the 9th. The Cardinals 2 outs away from securing a win in the first game of this series, guys, and moving within 1 of Cincinnati. 2 more games to come. Can you say this series is bigger for one team or the other at this point of the season?
I personally don't think so.
Hernandez hits it a long way the other way and gone. 7-3.
Hernandez just does a good job going with this pitch. It's a breaking ball away. Instead of trying to pull that, he just stays through it and drives it to right field. And the ball just kept carrying right over the right field wall. Cincinnati Reds do not give up. They play for the very last out, and they've got quite a few comeback wins this year.
There's Paul Janisch. They've still got a ways to go, down 4 runs, but they've got the most come from behind wins in the National League this year.
And I think one thing, if you're Cincinnati right now, you want to put runners on base, make them get their closer Ryan Franklin up and warm and hot and in a game he didn't think he would be in. Possibly want to see him come in. Here we see a fastball up and into Janisch, and looked like he actually swung the bat and did get the strike call. Larry Vanover noticing it and says he went around. Although it looked like you're just kind of defending yourself.
That's a tough call.
I don't know about that.
I know you're starting your swing, but you're trying to get out of the way, and the momentum of trying to get out of the way brings that bat around.
I agree.
The 1-2. Got a piece of the breaking ball.
But guys, I think much is going to, the consensus is that Cincinnati needs to play well because they haven't been in this situation in a long time. You know what? I don't know if I entirely believe that. Whereas I think there's some some importance to this series, and you certainly want to make a statement, or for St. Louis close the gap, or if you're Cincinnati widen that lead.
Lopez at third, 2 down.
But
so the Reds down to their final out. Here comes a pinch hitter in Johnny Gomes. As some long faces in that first base dugout. 7-run 4th inning for the Cardinals.
But I think both of these clubs going forward are of top quality. We saw the easy schedule. So the bottom line is I don't think this series makes or breaks either of these clubs. I think it's more just a statement, and for Cincinnati right now, about really getting this fan base even more behind them than they already are.
And again, the wild card is still in play for whoever finishes second in the East, Central, or West. There's another opportunity to make it to the playoffs, but the easiest way is just win out in your division. The easiest way to do that is beat the team that's chasing you. But tonight, thus far, the Reds have not been able to do that. Not done quite yet as Johnny Gomes reaches with a base hit.
I'd have to agree with Aaron. He talks about this is not a do or die situation for either team, but I think this series kind of sets up a playoff run. I think this is something that both teams are going, okay, here it is. We're not waiting until September to get to that playoff run. We got to do it now, and especially with the two teams who are battling for first place in the division.
Tony La Russa just told Yadier Molina to go out and talk to Kyle McClellan, and that presumably is to give Ryan Franklin some time to get loose.
And you know what? So in a lot of ways, mission accomplished here for Cincinnati. You've put enough runners out there. You've produced enough of a rally to make the St. Louis Cardinals get their closer up. Now if you get another guy on base, you get him into the game, in a game that he probably, in the middle of this game with Carpenter dealing and the big lead, thought no chance I'm going to see. And then if you put a couple more out there, who knows what can happen.
They got to get 2 more guys on to get Joey Votto to the plate as the tying run. Down to their final out, though. Brandon Phillips takes high, ball 1.
Falling behind, you would think that Phillips might be looking to take a strike, especially now that he's ahead in the count.
Now the Cardinals just moved Pujols off the bag to play behind the runner. Gomes on the move, and the pitch fouled off.
Brandon Phillips this year moving to the leadoff spot. He's been such a productive hitter in the middle of this lineup, mostly in the 4-hole for the last several years. This year asked to move to the leadoff role and has responded a similar type season, although he's upped his walks and lowered his strikeouts.
Fouled off again, 1-2.
Both times you see Johnny Gomes taking off and trying to get to second base. Why not take advantage? They're going to give it to you. Albert Pujols is playing off. They're worried about just getting that third out. My only concern would be make sure Johnny Gomes has to make sure he's going, because Yadier Molina is not afraid to pick behind the runner. And Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina are the best in the league at doing that.
The 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss at the curveball. The tag applied, and the game is over. The Cardinals take the first game of this series 7-3 and now sit one game back of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, the Cardinals come in down 2 games to the Cincinnati Reds. A lot of buzz in this town, and make a statement with a big inning, scoring 7 runs in the 4th, and Carpenter pretty much took it from there.
And that's what Carpenter can do. When you give him a lead, you can't afford to give Carpenter any type of lead, because he can shut you down throughout the entire game. And he did so. And then Cardinals bullpen coming in and doing their job to take game 1 of this start of an important series.
One big inning, the difference here in this game tonight. 7 runs, all of them in the 4th inning for the Cardinals off Mike Leake. As the Cardinals beat the Reds 7-3, they sit now a game back of the Reds for top spot in the NL Central. Coming up next here on ESPN, it is Baseball Tonight. For Aaron Boone, Nomar Garciaparra, and our entire ESPN crew, this is Dan Schulman saying thanks for joining us tonight from Cincinnati, where the Cardinals beat the Reds. Now back to the studio. Here's Baseball Tonight.